Welcome back to the Zodiac Reset. I'm CJ, and in our second to last episode of this series, we're talking to the people who always feel like they're tuned into a radio station that no one else can hear. Have you ever sat in a meeting, listening to people discuss a new strategy while thinking, is everyone else really okay with this mediocre solution? Or maybe you're at a school event, nodding along with other parents, while internally questioning why nobody is talking about the actual systemic issues that matter. If you've ever felt like you're on a completely different wavelength than the rest of the room, this episode is going to validate a feeling you've probably been trying to suppress. Today, we're talking about Aquarius energy and why your sense of being an outsider isn't a social problem. It's a spiritual assignment. Here is the reality for Aquarius energy. It's ruled by Uranus, the planet of sudden breakthroughs, radical change, and the future. You don't just see the world as it is, you see it as it could be. The problem? Most of the world is still ruled by the status quo. You see possibilities and solutions that others haven't even dreamed of yet. But expressing that different perspective often feels like speaking a foreign language. So you learn to code switch. At work, you tone down your innovative ideas to fit into acceptable parameters. In social circles, you stick to small talk while you're actually craving a conversation about how to change the world. You start to wonder, is my perspective valuable or am I just weird? What's truly exhausting for an Aquarius isn't the ideas, it's the masking, because you've learned to code switch just to survive. At work, you're toning down your systemic solutions to fit into bite-sized updates that won't scare the management. In social circles, you stick to the weather and sports because you're tired of the there they go again looks you get when you bring up wealth inequality or sustainable tech. You start to view your unique perspectives as a burden to be managed, rather than a gift to be shared. You've traded your authenticity for acceptability, and your soul is starting to feel the static. Because the world often rejects your different frequency, you've likely retreated into your head. Aquarius is an air sign, and you're brilliant there. But when you live entirely in your mind, you disconnect from your heart's knowing and your body's wisdom. You treat your insights like intellectual puzzles rather than deeply felt truths. But listen to me. Your discomfort with a mediocre system isn't antisocial behavior. It's pro-social intelligence. You see what could be better because you care about the collective well-being. Your weirdness is actually a form of service. I remember a time when I was working at a place where the internal systems were, to put it kindly, prehistoric. Our workflow for policymaking and change management was so outdated. It was a clunky, frustrating process that drained everyone's energy and led to constant bottlenecks. So, because I'm wired to look for version 2, I proposed an update to the system. It would have made our policy making agile, eased the burden on the team, and brought us into the current decade. The response was that I was told the powers that be would never allow those kinds of changes. They were a low priority, and we just had to work with what we had. So basically, stop trying to fix the system and just figure out how to suffer through it. But the problem is, I started to internalize that. I thought, maybe I should just stop pushing. Maybe I'm the one who's out of touch. Then, a few weeks later, my son came home absolutely frustrated about a new rule at school that didn't make any sense to him. It was one of those because I said so kind of rules that actually made it harder for him to accept and get his work done. He looked at me, expecting me to be on his side, and instead, I heard these words coming out of my mouth. Look, sometimes that's just how things are. You just have to follow the rule. He asked me why the rule existed if it was clearly unfair. And I realized I had no helpful answer. I was stunned into silence because there was no logical reason. In that moment, I was teaching him to suppress his critical thinking just so he would fit in and not get in trouble. I was modeling compliance instead of constructive questioning. I was telling him to accept something that dimmed his internal light because I had been told the same thing myself. I was modeling the compliance over consciousness mindset that was currently crushing my soul. That day I realized an Aquarius who stops asking why and starts saying that's just how it is an Aquarius who has disconnected from their greatest strength and has lost their power. So here's your Aquarius reset. Stop apologizing for seeing the future. For the next week, I want you to honor the glitch. When you notice yourself thinking, this could work better, do not dismiss it. Write it down. You don't have to stage a revolution, but you do have to stop gaslighting yourself by telling yourself that your insight doesn't fit. Honor your pattern recognition abilities. Stop trying to squeeze your insights into other people's comfort zones and start trusting that your perspective has value, even if the powers that be aren't ready to hear it yet. Your weirdness is actually innovation in its rawest form. Aquarius is the water bearer, the one who carries the water of knowledge for the people. You aren't meant to be a hermit up on a mountain. You are meant to be a leader within the community. Your tendency to think outside existing frameworks isn't rebellious. It's leadership. When you stop hiding your authentic perspective, you give others permission to think differently too. Your ongoing practice is to find your tribe of fellow forward thinkers. Join groups focused on innovation in your industry. Seek out parents who are also questioning conventional approaches. Start the weird conversation at dinner and see who leans in. Your weird is not too much. Your vision is not too far ahead. Your frequency is exactly what this world needs to move forward. When you stop hiding your frequency, you act as a signal fire for others who are also tired of the mediocre solution. So I'd like you to check the notes for a link to your Aquarius Innovation Guide. You can continue your work. Some of the activities include the What Could Be Better journal prompt. This will allow for you to access your visions without judgment. Also, the Visionary script. This will help you to pitch radical ideas in a way that status quo people can actually hear. And tribe finding prompts. I'll give you 3 ways to identify your fellow frequency matchers in any room. So, next week, we are closing out the Zodiac Reset series with Pisces energy. We'll talk about how to honor your sensitive soul in a hard-edged world without absorbing everyone else's emotional chaos. Until then, trust your different perspective. Remember, the world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs people who can see what's next. Shine bright, stay aligned, and thanks for listening.